So we're going to deal with A here again, continuing on from yesterday, but now we're going to check. Okay, yesterday we tried to get the radical all by itself, and when the radical was all by itself, we squared it. It's no different today. So talk to me about what my very first step would be.
We're going to do square root for both sides.
I think you mean something different, but I know what you mean. What?
Yeah,
Square both sides. Not square root both sides, but square both sides. Now, what is the left side going to become?
It's going to be x plus 18.
X plus 18.
And then you're going to do x minus 2 twice.
Good. So you're going to do x minus 2 times x minus 2. So that's, yes, and FOIL it. Now, for those of you who are willing, I'm going to teach you a shortcut on foiling. So if you don't like this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You can still do it the old way. I'm going to show you in my head how I do foiling, because I don't foil the way you guys do. I just do that to illustrate how to do it. Let's say I'm foiling this. I don't go through the same effort that you do. I do this. I square this. What is that squared? And I square this. What is that squared? Positive 4. And last but not least, I know there's something that ends up in the middle. I take this times this, and whatever I get times 2. There's 2 of those. There will be 2 of those because there's the inner and the outer that I have to deal with. So what is x times negative 2? Negative 2x. And then times 2. There's another one, so there's 2 of them. So you could have just gone, like, notice that I've got 2 of these. That's this. The first one times the last one. Here times there. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and I will always end up with 2 of whatever that is. For example, I'll do one more just to show you. This is a different problem here. Like, let's say I have x plus 5 squared. I'm going to get x squared. I'm going to get 25. And then I'm going to multiply these together and get 5x and double that. What is 5x times 2?
Plus 5x.
5x plus 5x is 10x. So notice here, I'm doubling that negative 2x. It becomes negative 4x. So if you didn't get that, don't worry. You can still do it the long way. Some people really like that way, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can do that all the time. You go, yes. But then other people are like, wait, I didn't get it. I go, well, then I'm not going to just sit there and try to explain a shortcut, because then it becomes a long cut if I have to do that much work to explain. Just do it the way you know how. So all of that on the right became x squared minus 4x plus 4. Now, x is not by itself. I need to get all the x's together. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract x. And I get 18 is equal to x squared minus 5x, because negative 4x minus 1x is negative 5x, plus 4. And then I'm going to subtract 18. Now I'm at 0 is equal to x squared, minus 5x. And what did we have? 4, so negative 14. Now, usually people get here and they forget what to do, but you've dealt with this before. What do I do with this? Good, we're factoring. We're factoring. 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 14 that will add to give me negative 5. How's my messaging going? My messaging is good? It's okay. Is it good now though? We're back?
Yeah.
Okay. I trust you. Like if I didn't, I'd get ugly. I trust you. You're a good guy. All right. What are the 2 numbers? Negative 7 and positive 2. Now what is my next step? Same thing as we used to do. But remember, we'd factor and then we'd figure out what x was. How did we figure out what x was?
X minus 7 equals 0.
X minus 7 equals 0.
And
And yeah.
You're solving it on the right.
We're solving it. We're trying to figure out what x can equal. Now here's the thing. Do we agree that we just came up with 2 answers? Now it feels like we're done, but the truth is it said check them. So let's just check this really quick. We're going to plug them in, and I am going to try to plug this in the fast way. If I plug in 7 for x, this is going to end up as the square root of 25. 7 plus 18 is 25. And if I plug in 7 over here, we're going to get 5. The square root of 25 is equal to 5. Does that check out?
Yes.
Yes, that one's fine. That answer is there's no problem with it. I'm going to check negative 2 now. So on the left, I get negative 2 plus 18. That would give me the square root of 16. On the right, I get negative 2 minus 2. What is negative 2 minus 2?
Negative 4.
Does this check out? No, because remember, when we talk about just the square root of a number, where we didn't introduce the square root, we didn't take the square root of both sides there, what we did is we're just saying, is the square root of 16 negative 4? No, we're talking about the positive roots there. Remember, unless you took the square root of both sides, then you would have the plus or minus. In this case, it's only, this would end up as 4 equals negative 4, which is not true. So that answer is an extraneous solution, meaning it's a solution that does not work. When you plug it back in, it is not true. Yes, ma'am?
I don't understand the checking. How you do it.
I just plugged in, anytime I saw an X, I put in one of those numbers. The first time I tried it was 7. I went back up here to the beginning.
To both of them.
To both of them. Anywhere I saw an X, I replaced it with a 7, and it worked. When I replaced it,
So those same word like square root.
Yeah, but like, how did you get a square root of 25?
well, what is X? What is 7 plus 18? 25. I'm just plugging it in. So you can see that checking it is the longest part. So we're going to do all this. We're going to get answers. And then the worst part is like, really? I did all that work and now I have to check it? Yes. So let's try this one. And let's square both sides. And we get 2x plus 14. Now I'm going to show you my trick again. And you don't have to work this out. You can FOIL it out the other way. I'm just showing you for those of you who want to try this. And you're like, wait, I want to see if there's a faster way. This becomes x squared. This becomes what? What's 3 times 3? Remember, I'm squaring both sides. 9. Now I take the first one times the last one, and whatever I get, I'm going to double that. So what's the first one times the last one? 3x. Now double that. 3x plus 3x is what? 6x. So look, if I were to multiply those two things together, I would get 3x. And I need 2 of them. So that's 6x. Now, again, if you don't like that way, don't use it. It's okay. It's just, I'm showing you that that's way faster, right? Even if you don't know how I did it, it was way faster, right? Certainly faster than foiling. That's how I do things, but you can FOIL it out if you want to. It's the same exact process. All right, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides.
And you get x minus.
You're right. I'm just cleaning everything up first. Plus 4x, plus 9. And then you said, what am I going to do next? Minus 14, minus 14. And we get x squared plus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Now we get to the part where I'm going to do what? Look at the left-hand side. Factor, yeah. 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 5 that add to give me a positive 4.
4 and 1.
Negative 4.
They have to multiply to equal negative 5. We need 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 5 that add to give me positive 4.
1
Positive 5 and negative 1. Again, it's just factoring. So we go x plus 5 is equal to 0, and x minus 1 is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 5. There's my first answer. And x is equal to 1. 2 answers. I have to check them. So I need to see if both of them will work. I'm going to plug in the negative 5 first. So check it out. Here, I see an x. I'm going to plug in a negative 5 plus 14 is equal to negative 5 plus 3. Over here, I get negative 10 plus 14 is equal to negative 2. I already know that I can't do this, and I haven't done any more math in my head. Something about the right-hand side told me that this is not correct. How did I look at the right-hand side and go, nope, not, I don't even care. I don't care what the left side is. The right, it can't, there's no way. Right, you can't take the square root. Remember, think about this. If I'm taking the square root of this and it ends up as a negative number, remember that this should end up as a positive. That's the positive root of something. Look what happens. This ends up as 4, right? And then this is still negative 2. What is the square root of 4? 2 does not equal negative 2, so that negative 5 is an extraneous solution there. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to go ahead and check 1, but 1 works out just fine. I'm trying to save time so we don't have to keep doing like all this checking. 1 works out just fine. I am going to actually post the solutions to all of this, so if you're worried about taking pictures, I literally have all of this worked out. Don't worry, I'm going to post it in the announcements today because I know that this is a little bit harder for people. Yes, sir?
On the test and like the homework, do you have to check it?
Here's what would happen. So he says, do I have to check it? On your homework, yes, you definitely. If it says check, when it comes to the test, here's the problem if you don't check it. If you list 2 answers and one of them was an extraneous solution, then you just lost half points on that. So you have to know by throwing one of those out, I got the points back.
Is there always going to be one thrown out?
There will not always. Remember, yesterday we didn't have any extraneous solutions. None of those had extraneous. Today, these are going to have extraneous solutions. Wait, hold on. Like, too many things at the same time. What?
Right, if you miss those two and one of them is extraneous, it's wrong.
Right. So you basically got one answer right, but the other answer is not correct. Okay.
So we write no real solutions if there's none.
It would just be no solution. Yeah, there'd be no solution. If neither one of them work, then no solutions. All right, so let's go through this one. What am I going to do to both sides?
Square root. I mean, exponent.
Come on, you know the word.
Exponent.
Square it. I know what you mean. We got to get that word down, though, that we're squaring both sides. Okay, so we've got negative 9x plus 28. I'm going to show you my little method again because some of you are actually going to get this by watching. So I got negative x plus 4, and I'm looking to save time here. So I square this. What is negative x squared?
X squared.
X squared. What is positive 4 squared? Now I've got negative x times a positive 4. What does that give me? And now double it.
Negative 4. Minus 4.
I got negative 4x, and I'm doubling that, meaning times 2.
So it's going to be a positive 8x.
Negative 8x. Right? Negative 4x times positive 2 is a negative, and it's the negative 4 times the positive 2 becomes an 8, and then their x has nothing to multiply with. Negative 8x. X squared minus 8x plus 16. Again, if you don't like that, FOIL it out. You're going to get to the exact same answer as I am. For me, I'm trying to get through as much as possible, and if that shortcut works for you, great. Just make sure that if you're using the shortcut, you understand how to use it. If you're like, I know I do something like this, don't fake it. It's not going to help you to fake it. All right, so I'm going to add 9x and add 9x, and we get to 28 is equal to x squared plus x. Negative 8x plus 9x is plus 16. Now I'm going to subtract 28 and subtract 28. When I subtract 28 from each side, I end up at negative 12. 16 minus 28 will give me negative 12. What am I going to do after that? Factor. Two things that multiply to give me negative 12 that add to give me a positive 1. Positive and negative 3. Next up.
X plus 4 equals 0.
X minus. Oh wait.
What?
Never mind. It's x
The
equals
answer would be
4.
x.
Negative 4.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying that this would end up as negative 4. And this would end up as positive 3. Now I do need to check those, so I'm just going to check them real quick. So bear with me. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. So I'm going to check the negative 4 first. It's negative 9 times negative 4 plus 28 is equal to, now we've got negative, I didn't need that parentheses there.
It would just be 4, right?
Negative, yeah, I'm plugging in a negative 4 for the x, and it's got a negative on the outside. Well, it's not going to end up the whole thing as 4. Look what happened here. That x, I pulled out the x and put in a negative 4, but there was still a negative on the outside. So that becomes a positive 4 plus 4, and that becomes 8. On the left-hand side, we've got the square root of 36 plus 28. So you'll have to believe me that I'm not lying to you here, that ends up as 64. And the square root of 64 is, in fact,
Why did you square?
because the original problem didn't say to square it. We added that to get our answers. Like, this was not a part of the original problem. So when I plug it back in, I have to plug it back into the original problem, like what it is before I messed with it. Yes, sir?
You could just do this stuff like in your head then, right?
Can you do all that in your head?
Yeah.
That's a lot to check. I'm not saying it's not.
Like, you could check like, okay, x 3 times not negative 9 is negative 27. L equals square root of 1. That would be able to work.
Oh, okay. So wait, what? So do what? So tell me what you did. You're saying you're checking the 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what you did. He said he's doing this in his head, and I'll go along with it. I'll try it out. Go ahead.
Negative 27.
Okay.
28, which is equal to 1.
Okay.
Square root of 1. That doesn't work. Square root of 1.
So this is why I would not do it in my head, because in fact this does work. So let me do. You actually were on a roll, and then you said something that wasn't true. You said plug in 3, which you did, and there's nothing wrong with what you said there. I'm just going to leave the other side as it is for now, negative x plus 4. So he said plug that in, and then we get negative 27 plus 28, which would become the square root of 1. What is the square root of 1?
Wait, that is true.
Okay, now I'm going to plug in 3 on the other side, and we get negative 3 plus 4, which would be 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. That does check out. So
I didn't see that negative there.
that's exactly why I wouldn't do it in my head. And again, there's nothing wrong with your head. It's just a lot to keep track of. Like, if you make, like, forget about one little thing in there, you can't even go back and check where you made the mistake. It's all kind of just like, yeah, that seems right.
I didn't see that there was a negative.
No worries.
I thought it was
But that's what I mean is it sounded good. Like, it sounded good, but I already knew how this was going to end up. So, all right, let's we'll do the first 3 of these as well. Okay, these are very much like the homework, and this is going to be very much, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do this problem, somebody's going to get to the homework, and they're going to be like, I don't know how to do this problem. So pay attention to this, and you should be okay in the beginning. This is very difficult to do, because that's being raised to the 1/5 power, except for you know how to write this as a radical, and I bet as soon as you write it as a radical, you'll see exactly what to do. How do I write this as a radical?
5 square root
The 5th root
of 50
is equal to 2.
To the first power, second.
Right, to the first power, but we don't need to write. So now what are we going to do?
Make it all the fifth?
Yeah, so once you see that, you're like, oh, bro, I just raised that to the 5th power. And this becomes 3x minus 1. And what is 2 to the 5th power?
Come on, Chris.
That was 2 to the 3rd power.
Yeah,
25.
So,
More than 25.
25.
I did the 5 times 5.
It's actually 2 times 2 times 2 5 times.
Oh.
So, in all honesty, when it comes to 2s, I will not joke. Like, even as a math teacher, I still count this on my fingers. I go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 till I get to 5 times. Like,
I was playing.
I do
So I'm-
dominoes on my paper. Like,
You do the
I
what?
visualize dominoes,
Uh-huh.
and I just like I'll do the dots like to
Dominoes?
6. Yeah, I don't know. It's always worked for me. Like you know when you pick dominoes, like you can just see it and be like that's 6.
That is true.
I'll do the dots. I'll be like 43, 44, 45, and then to 6.
okay, so I am going to check this. Now, when I check it, I find it very difficult to check it in here. I would go, if I were to check that and plug in 11, I find that very difficult. But I know that the original problem is the exact same as this. It is the exact same as this. So I'm going to plug in that 11, and I get the 5th root of 3 times 11 minus 1 is equal to 2, in which case the 5th root of 33 minus 1 equals 2, in which case the 5th root of 32 equals 2. Now we just need to check that. Let's say you're not sure. You're like, I don't know whether the 5th root of 32 is 2. How would we check that? How could you possibly do that? Well, like, look, how would I deal with this? Forget about everything else. How would I deal with that? How did we break that down before?
put everything that was fit.
Okay, so look, we get 4 times 8 is 32, right? And we're going to keep breaking these down. That's 2 times 2. That's 4 times 2. And this is all the 5th root. Do I have 5 2's yet? Not yet. 2, 2, 2. So we get 2, 2, 2. And this is 2 more 2's. How many 2's do I have?
5.
So since I have 5 2's, this is going to be a 2 that gets pulled out. And we're end up with 2 is equal to 2, which is a true statement. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, I have a question. So when you were at square root of 5 to 32, whatever, like the radical, why did you,
Here. Yes?
yeah, why didn't you put everything that was fit?
We did that back at the beginning. We're checking it now. We did that at the very beginning.
But
See?
you can't use that to check?
Well, to check it, we said x is equal to 11. We need to check whether that's true. Is it true that x, when we plug in 11, that this will work? So notice what I did is I plugged in 11 to verify it'll work. All right. Notice the ugly part there is that exponent. So let's fix it. How can we fix it?
1 in the radical, 2 in the radical, and
2 is the index, but we actually don't need a 2 there because,
it's already
yeah.
there. So x plus 12, and now we're going to do the parentheses around them and put the 2 outside.
Okay, we're going to square both sides, and we get x squared is equal to?
X plus 12.
Keep going.
Now we're going to
Okay, let's subtract x, and we get x squared minus x is equal to 12.
No.
You're so close. You're so close. Everything you've done is right. You're so close. Somebody help her out. What do I need to do? Subtract 12, and we get x squared minus x minus 12 is equal to 0. Now do you know what to do? Factor it. I need two things that multiply to give me negative 12 that when added will give me negative 1.
Or is it negative 12?
Negative 4 and positive 3. That'll work. So we get x minus 4 is equal to 0, and x plus 3 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 4, and x is equal to negative 3. I need to check these answers now to see if either one of them does not work. So, okay, I'm going to just, for time's sake, I'm going to tell you that 4 works when you plug it in, but let me show you why negative 3 does not work. Negative 3 is not. I'm going to show you the one that doesn't work, because you're going to have to go in and do all the work, but let me show you what happens with the ones that don't. So x is equal to the square root of x plus 12. Here's our original thing. Basically, all I did is leave it as a radical, because I can work with a radical. And I'm going to check negative 3. I already know at this point, without even going forward, that this is not possible. How did I know that? Something right away, even before I wrote.
Equal to 9.
What's that?
Negative 3 is in the square root of 9. It's positive.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you could say that. You could say the square root of 9 is not negative 3. But look at it. We're not going to have the square root of a number equal a negative 3. That's only if we have like the positive and negative values. Here, when we take the square root of 9, when we have just a square root, this is going to equal a positive number. Because we did not do the square root of both sides. We didn't do that. We're just expecting the positive values there. And that is a negative value. That won't work. But if you want to keep going, then keep going, and it'll still not work. So negative 3 is not a solution. So checking them is going to be the biggest part. I'm going to tell you right now, come Wednesday of next week, what's going to happen. Now, it feels like it's a long ways away, but here's why it's not. MLK is on Monday. Tuesday, we're going to come in and review, and then you're testing. So actually, that's like one more class session after this before you're testing. Wowzers is right, and even Jinkies.